It's an At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show, serving up the hottest sports takes from right here in Cleveland, Ohio. It's your host, Noah, John, and Eric.
Welcome back in to the East. I'm your host, Noah, joined with my co-host, John and Eric. And you can join us at the office too. Send us a message, comment on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you are watching. Text the show, 216-250-1411. John, Eric, my boys, how we doing tonight?
Fiery. Let's go.
Fiery is the sentiment between the three of us because of all of the news that has broke since the Browns got, I don't want to say decimated because decimated is pretty tough, but we're getting there. It was getting there at that point. The Dallas Cowboys game has been talked about enough. We talked about it on Monday, and this Deshaun news has been talked about at length, but that is what we've come here to talk about today because me and John got into a spat about a lot of things not too long ago. My opinion has since changed, but I kind of want to open the floor and have one of you.
I love it.
What did you say?
I'm doing well, by the way, Noah. He was so worried that I was going to jump his ass. He didn't even let me tell him how I'm doing.
I didn't even mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
I'm just teasing.
I just love the guys. I got to say, before we start, we had the most fiery group chats, the At the Office group chat that I've ever seen. It was popping off. Noah sits like 5 yards that way outside of my office, and I'm like peeking up to see his reactions.
Yeah,
gentlemen,
a look behind the scenes, and not to be too cryptic, for those of you who watch the show, we talked 2 weeks ago on this show about would you rather have Baker Mayfield and never have done the Deshaun Watson thing? Would we be better off was the question. And Noah and I fought like dogs, like brothers, right? About knockdown, drag out. Noah was so optimistic and positive. And 11 days after we got into that argument, he goes, basically, to sum it up, yeah, man, I think you're right. We would have been better with Baker. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. How did you come off it so fast?
Well, I'd love to talk about it so we can intro this. Based off of, first, I'd like for one of you guys to kind of give the background of what happened with Deshaun. So for the people who haven't listened, maybe don't have all the issues, the interest, the understanding of what's going on. I think we've all got a chance to read the NBC Sports article that came out about the new case, but I'd like to hand it off to one of you guys and kind of give a nice broad description. Then I'll plead my case as to why I've changed my opinion, and we can get into all the fiery stuff. I just want to intro it first with what's going on. So, John, Eric, do one of you guys want to take it away?
Yeah, I can start it. I didn't read the entire article. There's a saying that I like. I think Chris Rock said it, and he was like, when the tiger attacked Siegfried and Roy, the tiger didn't go crazy. The tiger went tiger. We'll get into more of what that means, but with Deshaun Watson, it's not 27 million anymore. It's 27 million and one, right? Like the women keep popping up and accusing him of different sexual indiscretions. The thing that makes it interesting, and I hate to use that word, but it is what makes it interesting from a sports perspective without talking about the actual legality of what he did, because I do think he's a despicable person for what he did, but that's another conversation for another day. From the football perspective and the podcast, what makes it interesting is that if something happens illegal that he could be suspended or fined for that's against the NFL's conduct policy, the Browns have some language in the contract that means they could void his contract. And the thing that makes it interesting in here and now is I think, and again, not something I'm proud of, but I think if Deshaun Watson looked like Patrick Mahomes, people would think and feel differently about this. But because he's putrid and plays like warm dog shit every week, it's interesting because we could walk away from like $200 million of the money we owe him and cancel the contract and not have to deal with Deshaun Watson if things play out like they might. So, I don't know what you'd add.
I have a few things I'd add real quick too. Something interesting of note is there was a meeting or, some verbiage, at least in his contract, that states to the extent that he had to mention all of the potential and or current cases and what happened and what could happen. And there was a time frame involved with this as well. It seems with some of the stuff that has come out today, Stefanski saying, and who knows if this was him just playing softball with the reporters as he does, that he didn't know about this lawsuit at all until Monday or anything about it. The point of the matter is, in his contract and in what brought him into Cleveland, he was supposed to describe and make sure the team was aware of all of these things. So if Deshaun Watson never told the club about this particular case, which has harsher, legal ramifications in it, even though it's a civil case, it's a deeper case. It's, worse crimes. If he didn't describe this to the club or anything like this, there's potential for the Void to be involved with that as well. Eric, do you have anything you want to add with kind of the background of this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what you're referring to is so-called article or paragraph 42 of his contract. The fact that I know that, the fact that there are memes that Browns fans, it's the most popular Browns
McNeil
jersey right now
yeah.
in the team shop. Yeah, article is the name and 42 is the number. We're living in a sad existence right now. I do want to point out that while I think where there is smoke, there is typically fire, especially as it concerns Deshaun. I think, as John pointed out, he is a despicable human being. I do believe in due process, and this is a civil matter, but I think that that it needs to play out in the court of law. That said, the man can't play freaking football either. I mean, what are we even talking about at this point?
Well, this week was crazy. And so let me do one thing real quick. Since we're still at the top, this is our big topic today. I told you guys this once or twice before. I'm going to be wrong more than I'm right. We're just three guys having a conversation. But when I'm right and keep the receipt, there are a few things that I feel like I need to bring.
I was going to say, this isn't what you said in the group chat. I might be wrong, or I'm often wrong. I didn't see any of those words.
I didn't see any of this.
Oh, no.
I would never on me the whole time, but
I would never text that to you guys. I've said that on the podcast.
But you'll put it out there in the public with people listening live right now.
Correct. I got an image to uphold on both sides of the fence here, gentlemen. I hope you understand that. We talked a lot about other things, right? Like you came correct. We talked about it. I'm sure we'll hit on it once or twice again. Yeah, we'd probably be better off if we just kept Baker Mayfield. But there are a lot of things that happened this week in the NFL that I think were also interesting that we've touched on. I wasn't the only one, right? You guys have said some of it. How did the Steelers look not even scoring a touchdown and getting a win with a head coach in that defense? We talked about the Steelers. What you said, hey, I was like, don't write them off, right? It's the Steelers with the defense and the coach. They're the only team with a win, even though they didn't score a touchdown. Baker balled out at the same time as the Browns were playing. So they had insult to injury. The Bucs won with a good performance from their quarterback. And I said, this screams Browns disappoint fan base on national TV and get blown out by a better team. I don't know that they'll be better in February, but the Cowboys are a regular season juggernaut, and we had a whole team of offense that didn't play in preseason. This is Deshaun Watson's first game in half a year again. So kind of underneath all of this, now in addition, we have this case. There's a lot of other stuff going on that adds to the frustration because just so many things that we thought could be true. I mean, the Steelers are in first place. I think they're the only team that won. Now I did also say, hey, Joe Burrow and the Bengals should be really good. They didn't look very good. I don't want to get too far off topic.
Liverpool already. My first year doing it, $50. You took the Bengals too officially. I couldn't remember.
Yep.
I mean, I agree with you, man. And, since we're at this point of the episode already, I will say I'm sorry. You were right. I was wrong. I will put that out there so you guys know. 11 days ago, and I'm going to go on my little bit of a tangent with this, and then I kind of want to get back into some of Deshaun's play, the legalities, and talk about that and debate it, right? But for John's credit and my credit too, because I want to be able to be the person or a person when it comes to talking sports that I can admit when I'm wrong. 11 days ago, I felt way better about this team for a plethora of reasons, whether the off the field issues were still more of the same, this, that, or the other. the fact that there's another case to me has just gotten to the point where I'm so sick and tired of it that I don't want to even deal with Deshaun Watson, the person, the quarterback. To me, this has nothing to do with the abysmal play that he gave us on Sunday, and more to do with the fact that I'm just tired of having the same roundabout arguments about the same guy who is questionable at best in his morals, and something I didn't want to stand with when we traded for him. I let it go for better or for worse because he was going to go play somewhere. So at least we hopefully got that elite quarterback. Newsflash, it doesn't look like we did, obviously. And that was kind of my rationale and my thinking. But I want to shake your hand on air and say, I'm sorry, John. You were right. That was a great episode. We had a great time.
We did.
Sucks that I got proven wrong 11 days later.
I felt like I was Jerry Springer that day. Like, I was just like, I don't even know how to host this right now.
And Noah did a good job. He stuck to his guns. Like, in the moment, there were points that he made that I'm like, okay, I disagree, but I can see where he's coming from. But a lot has transpired since then. You're off the hook in my book. It takes a man to say you were wrong, and we could both be wrong again in 6 weeks, right? Like, maybe he will look like we don't know.
Could you imagine Ace comes out and he has like an MVP season, and then we're all like, "What do we do?" Because I'm still on the opinion, right? First of all, that I'm just out on it because I don't want to deal with the thought process and the media cloud over Cleveland. We've had enough being the laughingstock of the NFL, right?
Bingo.
And I don't think so. Let's dig into that piece, right? Because that's the interesting. You talked about, if he comes out and plays like an MVP. So I always prep for this podcast. Sometimes it's 3 hours. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. Depends on what it is, how passionate, how well thought out my stuff is. And I just wanted to look to, like, how you get when you're online. You're like, let me find stuff that justifies my own opinion. He wasn't good before the allegations and before yesterday. We think of him as good because he was on the roster. He came back, and his tie to the Browns is kind of as we got to where we thought we'd be a perennial playoff contender, potentially Super Bowl contender. But
I always point to that Baltimore Ravens game, that second half performance. That was something I've always kind of hung my hat on, of seeing it, just to give you some backing on a guy that was more in favor of the trade, 11, 12, 13, however many days ago that was now.
Yeah, and I was in favor of it back when it happened. I've fallen out of favor with it. But no, you're exactly right. He was amazing in the second half of the Ravens game. I think he led us to a win against the Bengals in that same season that looked really, really good. The problem is that's it. He was traded here in March of 22. Women started coming from everywhere. In August, he was suspended 11 games. He came back. We went 3-3. He threw for 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, if I got my stats right. He has 2,300 total yards, and his completion percentage, QBR, yards per completion, on the list of starting quarterbacks puts him in the high 30s to 40s. Now, for those of you who can count, there's only 32 teams. So there are other second quarterbacks who have played better than him in a lot of these metrics. I think we fell in love with what he could be based on Houston, and I think football is a game you have to play to stay up on your craft, and he has spent so much time hurt and suspended and out. He's just not there anymore. And I think Deshaun Watson, if he stayed healthy the rest of his career and never missed another snap, could still be a decent quarterback in the NFL. But with this amount of time, I would be literally flabbergasted if this guy sniffed MVP quality play ever again in his career. And he's only 28.
I want to show something to back that real quick. I want to show something to back what you said real quick, because I think this is really interesting. I was also of the belief before the 27 million or whatever comment you made, John, allegation came out late Monday afternoon, that, the game was bad. He looked bad. He threw some bad balls, but it's one game. Let's see what happens the following week and see how he builds on this before we back out. Then the QBR ratings for the week came out. And I don't know if you guys got to see this, but I made a nice little graphic for this one.
20?
Let me pull down 9.3.
Oh my God.
He had a QBR of 9.3 in that Dallas game.
If you're ever on a list and you're looking up at Daniel Jones or Bryce Young, you're not doing something right.
You guys ever watch the movie Moneyball? He's describing the
comment.
athletics, and he said, there's your top teams, your middle teams, there's like 30 piles of shit, and then there's us. That's Deshaun. But I want to back up away from that for a second, because my issue this week is with Deshaun, don't get me wrong, but it's also systemic of the Cleveland Browns organization. And I got to tell you guys, this is maybe the lowest I've been in quite a while watching Cleveland Browns football. And it's not, we had 0-16. You got to remember, I was born in 91. So I basically had the expansion team on. We've had 3 playoff appearances. One game we should have won and lost close. One game we got demoralized in last year. And then that wonderful win, thanks to Baker in part, and that defense. My point, though, is what are we doing? Why are we wrapping up our happiness in these sports teams that do nothing for us? We get all excited week in and week out. I know I was on vacation and I was ecstatic to get home for Cleveland Browns football.
Debbie Downer Eric again.
No, listen,
rain on our parade because we enjoy the NFL.
Shut up, Noah. I'm making a point. Listen, I'm not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it's fucking ridiculous. This is what we got to put up with year in and year out. And I'm sorry, I know you like to ride Steven Stefanski and the 2-time coach of the year bullshit. But I didn't watch the post game. I don't know if you guys did, because I was so sick of it. And normally I do. Like, if the Buckeyes lose in a playoff game, I'm that guy that will watch the celebration of the other team, watch all the post game. Like, I want to revel in the misery of it for some reason.
Can't do it.
There we go with Debbie Downer Eric. I want to watch this and be sad, and we should not care about football whatsoever.
I didn't watch anything from the Browns post game. But if I were a betting man, I guess I am, I'd be willing to bet quite a bit of money that says Stefanski got up there and said something along the lines of, we just got to do better. I got to do better. If I hear that one more damn time from him,
what do you want him to say, though?
I want him to do better, Noah. I'm done with the excuses from this guy. He had how many months?
5 quarterbacks last year.
How many months? He knew this game was coming. And that's what we saw from it. I don't care about the offensive line. Yeah, it was a sieve. I don't care that Watson threw 20 yards over people's heads. The play calling was atrocious too. Why is he still calling plays when he has an offensive coordinator? Why is the offensive coordinator on the field? None of these decisions make sense.
Now, I agree with that point.
I'm over it, man.
You guys are going at it like me and Noah last week. I'm just listening.
But I don't get why we are, as a fan base,
because it's Kevin Bloody Kitchens on the sideline. That's what we're dealing with all over again.
That's not true.
Go on. He's holding his menu like the damn Denny's menu, and he doesn't know what's going on once again.
I don't get what the gripe is with the menu. I don't get what the gripe is. I do to an extent with the play calling, because the point is you're on the sideline without passion, and you look like, what am I going to do next? And whatever you choose is shit. That some of those play calls, you have a bad offensive line for somehow,
that's what we get.
This guy gets awarded Coach of the Year 2 times, but Eric, the sales professional, knows more than him and doesn't think he makes proper play calling. That's what I don't get, is this armchair quarterbacking that we do in Cleveland.
What do you think this show is?
I agree with you. We just
pack it up and not do the show anymore because we're not professional coaches? Come on. That's a dumb argument.
But
give me something better than that, and give me something better than Coach of the Year, because that has.
What do you want better than that? That's like getting the award for being the best person on the sales floor, Eric.
And that doesn't mean anything. You still got to go out and fucking sell. He's not going out and coaching wins. That's my point.
He hasn't gone out and coached wins. What was our record last year, Eric?
I don't know. What was it, Noah?
11-6.
What happened in the playoffs? We looked lost.
Okay.
The guy comes out.
That wasn't on him. Joe Flacco threw 2 back-to-back pick
Here's
sixes.
my problem with Stefanski. He normally comes out with a great game plan for a quarter, and then it falls apart because he can't adjust and he can't coach to the personnel that he has. This time, we didn't even get a game plan in 1 quarter. We got beat from the get-go. We got out-coached. We got outplayed. The defense looked okay. That was it. The kicking team looked okay too. That was it.
I liked the kid who was returning kickoffs and punts.
Jalen Darden, shout out Jalen Darden. He deserves a lot of credit and a lot of respect. He was a practice squad late call up to be our kick and punt returner.
Wearing 16 too, legacy number.
I know, legacy number, right?
I have one. I almost put it on instead of this one, but it's a little peely. One of my last Browns jersey that I still kept is Josh Cribbs. Cribbs. I have this one, and then I have a Baker Mayfield that I pretend is JOK because nobody can see the name on the front.
Listen,
$25 and it was authentic. Shout out Marshalls. My wife picked that up. Steal of the century.
Let me be clear. I will be there next week rooting them, not literally there, it's in Jacksonville, but rooting them on just like I was this week. But aren't you guys tired? I mean, this is the shit. And then throw on the Watson shit on top of it. I'm tired. I'm tired of bad decisions. I think the front office does a hell of a job. Don't get me wrong. But the Watson decision was a mess.
Wait. And I'm playing devil's advocate here because I'm a fan of the Stefanski Barry brain trust.
Oh, I like Barry.
You like Barry, but you hate the Deshaun Watson. I'm
saying we should move on from Stefanski. I'm saying I'm sick of hearing I got to do better in these press conferences. What
else do you want to say?
I want the offensive coordinator to call the plays. I want him to be in the booth. I want Stefanski to be a head coach. He doesn't need to be calling plays. You can game plan, that's fine. But the OC should be calling the plays. We brought in Dorsey for a reason. Let him call the plays. Let's see what happens. I want better adjustments. If you don't know how to do it, then lean on your staff to adjust in game. That's what I want.
So quick, I just want to interject for 1 minute. You guys this is great. I get to play Eric this week while you two go at each other.
I told you, I'm fiery.
You are fired up. At the risk of also incurring your wrath, you hit 5 key points, 3 of which I disagree with, 2 of which I agree with. And overall, I agree with your sentiment. There's a couple things I want to pick apart. Tell me if you agree or disagree.
The accountant in you just kills me every week, but go on.
I love it. I'm here for it.
The first is, why do we love the team? This isn't Boston or New York or Los Angeles. We're Midwestern people with Midwestern values who work in the Rust Belt, who bust our ass at our jobs every day, and we sit down for a little bit of a release before we have to go back to work and we watch this team. It is pushed into us as children living in this region that sports are important and the team spirit is important and camaraderie and where you come from and who you are is important. And growing up, Cleveland was not a cool place to be from. Now, Noah's too young to know that, but you go anywhere on a plane and say you're from Cleveland and people, the mistake on the lake, the river set on fire. The Cleveland Browns were the punch in the mouth to everybody else in the country because we played really good football. And the reason I'm so mad about the team moving to Baltimore is because they took all of that with us. That's another conversation for another day. But why do we care? We're bred to care. We care about each other. We care about where we're from. We care about who we are. And our football team, for better or for worse, we feel is a representation of that. That's why I think we care. Is it rational or sane when we have no control? Should we spend the money we spend and the time we spend? Debatable. But you ask, why do we care? I can't not.
I mean,
it's just who I am.
That was rhetorical, but yeah, go on.
All right. Fair.
I appreciate you answering it, but go on.
2, you said the O-line was deceived. They weren't as good as we're used to seeing. The man who's going to go down as probably the greatest offensive line coach in the history of the NFL is no longer here, so you expect a step back. That said, I looked at the stats, and of all the quarterbacks who played last Sunday, all 32, Deshaun Watson had more time to throw than all of them but 8. He ran out of the pocket when he was out of time on his own.
Let me add on this, too.
Yeah.
Pro Football Focus, John, and Eric, credited 0 out of the 6 sacks that Deshaun Watson took in the Browns-Cowboys game on any of the offensive linemen. Yes. All 6 of the sacks in Pro Football Focus's eyes, so take it with a grain of salt, of course, were Deshaun Watson's fault.
Okay, that's a perfectly valid point. I appreciate that because it was the eye test that I was going off of.
Well, it's a bad eye test because when you're used to having,
too.
If you're used to having filet mignon and caviar, and somebody sends you chicken wings from Winky Lizard, they're still good. It's chicken wings, but
you think of the bad, the mountain of the man on the right, whose name's escaping me for some reason.
Jones.
Thank you.
He had a horrible game regardless.
You think of the bad moments though, and not. I get it. You're losing, etc. Okay, fair enough.
So that's 2. Stefanski being the issue. I'm in the middle, but I'm mostly on Noah's side. two-time coach of the, and this took now the piece of it I agree with you on. I'll get to in a minute. But Stefanski himself being the issue, I don't think. They also showed freeze frames on some of this research I did that showed tight ends and wide receivers and slot receivers, everybody but Coop, wide open. And I don't mean wide open for the NFL with a step in a hand. And I don't mean wide open for college where everybody's kind of open or you can throw them open. I mean dudes with nobody within 15 yards of them, and Deshaun Watson flat out missed him. So he has 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, plenty of time, runs out of the pocket with no pressure, into trouble, fails to see a wide open tight end in the middle of the field between the hash marks for 20 yards 6 times, enough that it could have scored his 2 touchdowns and changed the whole dynamic of the game.
Then why wasn't he benched?
Issue, I think.
Because
and here's the evidence of that real quick. How did PJ Tucker and Joe Flacco look in Stefanski's offense?
Yeah,
PJ Tucker's not good. And they both looked good to great.
Stefanski calls a pro-style offense that I think suited Joe Flacco and doesn't suit. Not that we have a lot to go on with Watson,
but that's not what the scheme is anymore. That's why you bring Dorsey in. Now you can make that
exactly.
But they're still calling it. It's not like he's going back to last year's playbook, Eric, and opening it up. That's not how football works.
I understand that.
It's not like he's picking up yesterday's Denny's menu or whatever the hell you want to call it and being like, oh, well, now that I'm calling the plays, where's the Joe Flacco right call?
That is my favorite meme from the Kitchens era. It came from Family Guy. And they had Peter Griffin. He has a Denny's menu, and they just put him in Browns coaching gear, and it's great. Listen, I get what you guys are saying.
Are all the things that just last point on that, because you covered a lot of ground and you made some really good points. To the ones that were good, Stefanski never adjusts. We have better talent than most teams in the NFL. He goes, this is our base offense. This is our base defense. We're going to run it. And when you have Joe Flacco, it looks good. And when you have Deshaun, it looks bad because Deshaun's not a fit. The thing that I would also say, just to wrap that whole piece up, Deshaun Watson being on your football team is not the front office. It's Jimmy and D. They said they were going to go get this guy. So to put that at Stefanski's feet, because Jimmy and D paid this guy $250 million and said you got to play him, I don't think is 100% fair.
Let's say Jimmy. I don't even put it at D's feet. Listen, you made a really good point for me, in my opinion, and you said that it's not suited for Watson. Well, guess what? That's our quarterback that we've known is going to be the starter for months.
And again, I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here, right? Because he played horrible. I am not a fan of Deshaun Watson. On record, I am not a fan of Deshaun Watson. That being said, the offense this year is tailored for Deshaun Watson. That is the point of I hate that you have producer controls now, so you can play the comments that only make sense for only your argument.
He said he's calling his offense for Madden.
You can put comments.
That is hilarious.
I've been putting comments. Regardless, that's why you bring Ken Dorsey in. The offense now is supposed to be tailored to the Deshaun Watson type of quarterback.
Sure. Was it?
I would argue, yeah. I mean, scheme-wise, there were receivers open even on scramble drills, and at that point, it's on Deshaun.
Yeah, he's got to make the throws. Listen, I'm laying it at Stefanski's feet because he is the head coach. He is the buck stops here guy, and if it didn't work out, if the scheme, it's not Dorsey's fault. That lays at the head coach. Clearly something went wrong. So what went wrong besides just terrible quarterback play? Is that it?
I think that's it. I think
that then you fucking bench the guy. We're going to start him in week 2. Again, I'm not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, before we pivot, Noah, are we going to do a break because we're at half an hour? Because we're kind of pivoting naturally into we're done bitching and what do we do about it? Eric got to it with the benching. Not to take over the show.
No, I like it. I like being transitioned easily because Eric will ramble for another 3 minutes about some stuff and why we should be
shit on Eric
about football. Well, I thought it was going to be shit on Noah Day, so
we'll get there, buddy.
Oh, okay. All right, man. We'll be right back with the At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show. Talk to you in a minute. And we are back with the At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show. Want to shout out to all of our fantastic partners we have here on the channel for the show. The Fanatical Elves, Fans First Sports Network, they help us with all the back-end stuff, setting up this podcast, and we really appreciate being a part of them. Make sure you check out the merch for the Fanatical Elves in the link on the X account, as well as in our link trees that should be in all of our bios now, I think. I don't know if they did it. I know it's been in mine since I created it. And make sure you hit the subscribe button too if you're watching on YouTube. Helps us grow the channel a ton at the East Bank Sports Show. We're growing and we're enjoying and we're having fun having people in the chats. Gentlemen, I want to get back into it though. We were going off and around and talking about some of this Deshaun Watson stuff. Here's Eric again, playing comments that lean only towards Eric. And I'm ready,
you, buddy.
I'm ready to get back into it. So we were kind of left at what do we do about this mess, right? Because why don't you bench Deshaun Watson? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? I kind of want to open the floor back up because Eric, you were about to go and we cut the break. So Eric, where are we feeling? What are we feeling?
Well, I mean, my biggest question is where do we go from here? Let's look at the positives from that game, right? I think that the defense had a decent game. They gave up a lot of field goals, but they weren't awful. And I believe in them as a unit to get their stuff together. I didn't look at any stats, but I asked the question, where was Myles Garrett? Because he didn't seem impactful on the game. Thank you, Tim. I didn't even throw that one up.
I had to.
I was like, what's going on? Now no one's putting up the What are you even doing?
We're just having fun, right, man? We're having fun. We're 30 minutes into this and we're having a blast.
I think the defense will get its act together. It's worrisome at times. I feel like Garrett should impact a game like TJ Watt does. And let me preface that by saying that they play two very different positions. And I don't think enough credit's the wrong word, but I don't think there's enough talk about that because edge rusher versus linebacker is very, very different in its approach. And Myles Garrett gets chipped and double teamed constantly. It should open things up for the other guys, and sometimes it does. But I want him to take over a game. I don't know. Maybe we move him around a little more. I don't know, but he wasn't really there for me in this game. But that said, I think the defense is fine. I think special teams looks really good. That's fantastic. It's the little things like that that win games. That makes me happy. So how do we fix the 200-pound gorilla that is the offense and Deshaun Watson? If it's all Deshaun, I don't know what you do because I'm not sure that the backups now are a viable option. We don't have a guy that can go out there like Flacco and get it done, in my opinion. I mean, I would love to see someone different, but I don't know what the fix is. Some of those throws by Deshaun were so bad where the camera doesn't catch our guy and he's overthrowing them so much. And you go, oh
my God,
who in the hell was he throwing to?
In the stands, bro. He threw two passes like intended for receivers, like into the stands.
All those ones in the red zone too. Like,
yeah,
what would give him a chance? They talked about it on the broadcast. Like, I think Brady, by the way, who was awful too, does not have a broadcast voice. Surprisingly, I thought he'd be better.
A little bit at all.
Terrible.
I was trying to by the way, that
terrible.
Wasn't cutting off or anything.
Yeah,
a lot of money, so I'm not gonna feel too bad for him. I actually think he did a decent job with what he had to say.
He's no Romo.
Was irritating. It's weird, but go ahead.
Anyway, you're exactly right, though. Like, you throw the ball up to give it a guy like Amari a 50-50 chance. It's a jump ball. That's why you have guys like Amari. This guy's throwing it, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows deep into the stands. I don't know where we go from here because I don't think Jameis is the answer. I love the guy. I think he's a locker room guy, but he threw more picks than he threw touchdowns. I don't know. I got
a wild one for you. Well, first things first. If the gorilla in the room is 200 pounds and I'm 250 as of this show, I would like you to up the weight of the gorilla in the room, just respectfully.
My bad. Fair enough.
Did you say how? Wait, how much?
I'm
What?
I said
250.
200, but all right. The
I've
500-pound gorilla.
done a good
Thank
job
you.
this year.
Thank
but
you.
yeah.
Before
I'm
you
at
respond,
252 right
We
now.
have
and
feelings
Eric's-
too over here, Eric.
Yeah.
hold on. Before you respond, real quick, I did wanted to add because we didn't talk about the running game. I thought that looked anemic as well. I can't wait for Chubb to get back. Obviously, I know Noah's against this, but I just don't understand. There's guys out there that we can sign. Why aren't we signing them?
Like who?
Like Hunt. I get it, but
Don't
the guy
start,
makes an
dude.
impact on the offense immediately.
Tell me why there is not another NFL franchise that has signed him if he's that big of a deal.
Or why don't we go get somebody? Don't we have 60 million in cap space? We're not making moves. I don't know. I want something. What are we gonna do?
So
We're gonna lean on Ford for the next 8 games?
There's Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt is not the answer. It's
I told you guys, I
what we
told you
want
guys
the
in the
answer.
offseason. I told you guys in the offseason when we talked about who we wanted. One of the things that I was shocked at that we didn't even throw our head in the ring for Derrick Henry. And everybody was like, oh, well, we gotta. And I'm like, every running back in the NFL is going to get hurt. You hope it's not for a long time. It'll probably be for a long time. Jerome Ford isn't that dude. Jerome Ford is a great second change of pace back. But as soon as he moves into the starting role, we have problems.
100%.
You saw them on Sunday. He is not an AFC North 25 times a game running back. And that's not a dig. There's a lot of teams where the first running back is the big, powerful. The second is a speed guy. And that second speed guy is a monster. It's no shade. I think Jerome Ford is one of the best second backs, 1-2 punches in the league. He just isn't the starting guy.
You could have gone in for Henry. I would have liked to see us go in for Zeke. I know
Barkley switched teams this year. I mean, I know it's a cap issue, but like we had a lot of running back activity. And how'd Saquon look on Thursday, by the way, or whatever night that was? Saturday.
So you guys are talking, and Eric, you specifically, you don't know who the quarterback is with this it factor, right? To be fair, the three of us sitting here weren't 100% sure Joe Flacco had that it factor when he came to Cleveland.
Sure.
And you discredited someone that I think has a chance to be a Flacco-esque quarterback, in my opinion.
On our roster?
Oh, God. Christ. It is eating crab legs. This is out of control.
Listen, I'm not buying into it because I think Jameis is some asininely great quarterback. He was a first-round pick.
Yeah, W.
You're eating the W. I was like, what are you doing right now? I thought you were going to get up and do some skit or something. Anyway, I think there's potential there for him to have that kind of thing. And this is maybe me sipping the Kool-Aid that I was drinking earlier, but I see it being a story where it makes sense. And even if it doesn't make sense to the degree of Joe Flacco's 6-7 game run, whatever it was last year, just being able to be the drama free for the most part because it's Jameis and he's funny and he's had some weird stuff in his past, but who, whatever. So I just see it making sense for this roster to kind of reset with the locker room guy that he is and the type of voice that he can be.
I'm all for it. And if he comes in and brings us a W, I'll go on record right now. I will take the three of us to CC's Pizza, which is a reference to his pregame speech. I'm for it. I don't think it's going to be here's the problem. We have a roster built to contend for a Super Bowl. We're just missing that one freaking guy.
Which is wild to say about a quarterback, by the way. If that's the one piece, it's a big piece, but you're right.
Sure.
It's tough. I mean, we don't know. People, and I've seen some headlines of can Jameis have the Geno type comeback, right? And who knows? Because I would have never thought Geno Smith was going to ever amount to what he's turned himself into in his late stages of his career in Seattle.
Yeah, that's a good example.
To me, again, and we're kind of circling back on Deshaun now, I'm just so sick of the Deshaun cloud over Cleveland. I want to move on from it.
So let me throw this at you because I'm sick of it too. That's one of the things that Eric said before too, where he was like, I'm just tired. Aren't you tired? Yes, I am tired of this same carousel. Reminds me of people in high school and college where it's like good relationships aren't fun and bad relationships are more entertaining, even though they're bad. So like as a Browns fan, these podcasts are more interesting if the Browns suck and we have these problems. I just wish, we were talking about the Guardians right now because the Browns won 35-20 and everything was great.
Yeah.
This is a little bit out there, especially for like this week. But this is what I think is actually ultimately going to happen. Jimmy and D are getting richer and richer. It's kind of like Dan Gilbert bought the Cavs. He was worth like $5 billion, and now he's worth like $50 billion. Because like these guys just get like super rich, right? $250 million is a shit ton of money. But Jimmy Haslam is worth about $15 billion. So it's money that matters, and money always matters to these guys. But it's not like he's going to go broke paying this guy. He has to pay him anyway. It's fully guaranteed. Jimmy and D, whoever is responsible, I think is eventually going to own it. And we're going to have a Bobby Bonilla pay Deshaun Watson. Every year he's going to get $10 million, and it'll be a joke until 2050, and they'll end up paying him out to go away because it's guaranteed money. They'll spread it out, and I think they're just going to cut him and get rid of him. I don't think we're going to have to work just because he has his contract. I don't think this is a 3-year problem or 4-year problem. I think Deshaun Watson he might have until week 7 or 8. But if we're not contending and Jimmy knows he has a team in place and a GM in place and a coach in place who have shown they can all do it other places with other stuff, there's no way he's going to handcuff this team with an albatross around their neck like Deshaun Watson, especially when it was his decision. So at some point, Jimmy is going to say, Deshaun, here's your buyout. And they're going to kick him off the team. And he's going to be done with the Browns, and we're going to have to figure out another quarterback.
So then where do we go from there, though? That's the problem. That's the question.
Well, then you have to roll with Jameis, and you roll with DTR as the backup, and you go
this season, yeah. But this roster isn't going to be this caliber that long. Our window's shorter than you think. So,
but we don't know. You don't know how this all pans out either. We could go down that rabbit hole of, well, where do you go? Well, do you draft someone, or is that too short? Do you trade for someone like, I don't know, Kirk Cousins comes to mind, even though he just signed in Atlanta, right? Do you get someone like that and try to go all the way, or do you go all the way for like a Justin Herbert or something? I don't know. We could play that what if game all day, but we'll sit here for another 20 minutes.
Would you trade Miles for a good quarterback?
No.
It
depends on how good. Let's not. Who are we talking? Like, would you trade Myles Garrett for Aaron Rodgers? No, because he's
I said a good quarterback. let's say Joe Burrow.
No.
Justin Herbert.
No.
Who's the kid for the Lions?
Goff.
Goff?
I don't want him.
You wouldn't trade Myles Garrett for Jared Goff right now for the rest of the season?
No.
Oh, all right.
No.
Well, that's an interesting discussion. Here's the
like
other
Goff
problem.
as a guy, but no.
All right,
there's a reason LA got rid of him.
Yeah, and then the Lions went to the NFC Championship and were up to
Patrick Mahomes.
Of course.
Mahomes is the only maybe answer.
Richardson.
There's no maybe. I think if you're on a team other than the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes is available, you trade anybody on your roster to get Pat Mahomes. Period. It's the most important position in sports, and he's the best.
Okay, how about what's his name? Buffalo's quarterback.
No.
Yes. If I could trade Myles Garrett for Josh Allen right now, absolutely.
I agree.
And
I'm going to reel us back in because we are never trading Myles Garrett. It's not going to happen.
Here's one other thing that the reason I said Jimmy's going to do something about it, he also created the vacuum behind. I think Jimmy said, I paid this guy all this money. The most important and the most popular man in Cleveland is always the backup quarterback. And he said, if I leave Joe Flacco on this roster and Deshaun looks like Deshaun looked, everybody this week is talking about how long till Flacco. So they got
They're already doing it with Jameis, though.
100%.
Jameis is unproven commodity. Joe Flacco won 5 out of 6 games and took us to the playoffs, and we weren't sure we were going to make it. Like, different. And I think that Jameis hasn't proven that yet, but I would we could have avoided this by still having Joe Flacco and Jacoby Brissett on the roster.
Oh, I know. I miss Jacoby.
What about a Tannehill or a Jimmy G trade?
Never been a fan of Jimmy G, but Tannehill.
Oh, Jimmy G. No, I was thinking Derek Carr. Derek Carr balled out.
I don't like him either.
I like him better than Deshaun Watson. And
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
Jameis
yeah,
Winston.
I like Cousins more than Carr, though. What about Flacco? Is he on Indianapolis as a backup?
Yeah,
Is that where he
yeah, he is.
landed? Can we
They're
trade
not-
for
I mean,
him? Can we get him back?
we should have just signed him.
Well, yeah, but
For God's sake.
But-
I mean,
the rationale of not signing him is why they did that. I mean, it makes sense. for
100%.
better or for worse.
Everybody this week would be calling for Flacco even more vehemently because they are.
It would have been
for-
Flacco chance at halftime.
Well, yeah. Well,
if he was on the roster.
Oh, that reminds me. Thank you for saying that, because I do want to say shout out to, speaking of Myles Garrett, who I too believe is untouchable, by the way. I just wanted to throw out some scenarios. But shout out to Myles, who said basically, you know, the fans have every right to boo. They should be booing us in essence. I'm paraphrasing here. He's such a mature guy and he gets it. And I just want to shout that out real quick because he is always a bright spot for the Browns.
He's also smart enough to know that we weren't booing him. Or I shouldn't 100%. Say we, I wasn't there, but that was the other thing with the defense. The defense was up to the task and realized that the offense was still asleep in the preseason, and they got demoralized and they got tired because they were on the field forever and they knew they were fighting a battle they couldn't win. You could see it in the body language. I'm not worried about the defense at all. I think if that ball game is 24-24 instead of what it was, the defense is just what you expect it to be, and they're right there making life hard for CD. They also had, CD Lamb is really good. So is Dak. Like, they're going to get some yards. We're not going to shut out the Cowboys just because our defense is good. So I think the defense is fine.
Shout out Zadarius too. I love that guy.
Oh, everything defensively, I don't have any gripes with. It's
Thornhill got burnt and looked a little
Juan's
shaky,
hurt
but
now. I don't know if you guys saw that. We had 4 defensive players go on the IR, so that's 4 weeks without Juan Thornhill, Mo Hurst, Tony Fields, and I forget who the other one is off the top of my head.
And day-to-day.
Njoku's day-to-day. He's out for this week officially. That was broken today, just for those who have been living under a rock, who have not seen it. Njoku's out this weekend, but is still day-to-day with a high ankle sprain. Gentlemen, I'm trying to think of what other things I wanted to ask you today. So, John, you said that you think that they're going to end up cutting him pretty quick.
I don't know about Eric, but I think that's the ultimate in game. Yeah,
like before the season's over.
If he doesn't play better, yeah, I don't think we start next season with Deshaun. If this year we know he sucks.
Eric, what do you think?
It's such a tough. I agree with the logic behind what you're saying, but we've seen it play out in the past. 252 million reasons why they won't do that. I don't know. I truly don't know. I think that I truly believe that they're going to try to use this. I know they said the same thing about due process that I said, but I think they're seeing like, holy shit, we have an opportunity to get out of this. And I think they're going to, I'm sure Jimmy and D's lawyers are looking into it as we speak to see, hey, what is the possibility we can extricate ourselves from this contract? Contract law is tricky though. If he is not found guilty, you said something earlier, Noah, that I disagreed with. You said, I trust the billionaires' attorneys over the millionaires. But that's not quite how the legal system works. They both have enough money to hire the best attorneys on the planet. And contracts are contracts. You can't just break a contract and get away with it. No matter how much money you have, it can be fairly tough. It depends on the wording and the language, but
here's my thing. I don't think the Haslam's would even let it go that far. I think they'd just pay it outside of court, settle the thing, and be done with it, and wipe their hands. And I don't care.
You're still talking about $250,000, and
that doesn't technically count towards the cap.
Or $1 billion.
How you massage that, though.
No, I know, but
I don't care as long as it doesn't.
These are people that want to make money. You forget that part. They want to win, but this is still about money. They're moving to Brook Park because of money. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. So
they're not going to make money if they keep Deshaun Watson as he continues to play how he is and has more cases come up and.
No, I
think they'd rather just money. It's a ton of money for us. But I'm telling you, do the math on what percentage of Jimmy and D's $15 billion net worth, $250 million.
I completely agree.
You're
But do
thinking
you
like
know any
Jimmy
billionaires?
Haslam is going to look up and
That is
say to
not how they
himself,
think. That is not how billionaires think. I don't care
Are you a
how much
billionaire? Do
money
you
they
know
have.
one?
What's that?
Are you a billionaire?
I mean,
No, you're not.
billionaires.
Do you know a billionaire?
I'm not going to pretend to know how billionaires think. And the point I'm trying to make isn't that you're wrong, that billionaires want to lose money. The point that I'm trying to make is the number 250 million has shock value because to most people, it's a lot of money. It is not enough money for Jimmy to make this a losing football team for 3 years. He will cut bait and leave. Because he'll make more money and sell more jerseys with the new stadium with a winning team, and he'll just write it off as a business loss. It's a big one and a dumb decision. It was his decision, but that's the privilege of having $15 billion is you can make a $200 million mistake and not lose any sleep.
And I'm not saying he won't do that. I agree with you. I just don't know the
$5 billion.
That's how this started, wasn't it? Is that you disagreed that he wouldn't do that because they're in the business to make money?
No, I said I don't know, and I don't see it like by the end of. I don't see him being cut before the season ends. I don't see that at all.
I think I haven't got to put my 2 cents of what I think this is going to play out to be. So I want to throw this out here real quick. It's going to be shaky because the biggest problem is going to be, as my light messes up, the biggest problem is going to be what do we do, because the NFL's whole process, right, of should he be banned, he's not going on commissioner's exempt list, right? They said that already. So what I think is going to happen is they're going to let this play out for a couple of weeks. We're all going to hate it. He's either going to play really bad or play mediocre, and they're going to send him home and be like, hey, we don't want to deal with this rationale or with all the lawsuit stuff anymore. I think that's how they'll get out of it for the time being while still paying him, almost putting it on like a team's exempt list, especially if more cases come out. I thought it was going to happen this week, but Stefanski said he's playing and he practiced today.
Can I just throw one more thing out?
Yeah.
So the Haslams were worth about 8.5 billion, not 15. And a quarter of $1 billion represents 2.9% of their net worth. That's not a small figure.
No, it's. I think your math is wrong. I'm calling shenanigans. We can get into it. I looked up the Haslam family net worth before we got on the call. It was almost 15.
It says right. I just Googled it. It says 8.5.
Because you should believe everything on Google.
Well, how do you want me to hack into his bank accounts, Noah? How do you think John got to 15?
I got to 15, so I went with 4.
Maybe it's a peer-reviewed article. I don't know. I'm just I went with
I know.
I went with the Forbes list from last year, and I also went with Haslam family, not just Jimmy Haslam, but the Haslam family net worth is just shy of $15 billion.
Well, I typed in Jimmy.
Right, there you go.
I think that makes a difference, though.
But Jimmy and D are both listed as the owners of the Cleveland Browns.
I'm pretty sure Jimmy and D's money are together in that. Anyway, my point is that's a lot of money. Still.
We're back to talk. Yeah.
So here, but just to wrap that whole thing up, then Eric, if you're worth $100,000, do you make a decision for the rest of your next 5 years over $2,900? No. So keep going, and $2,900 means a lot more to somebody with $100,000 than $250 million means to Jimmy and D. That's the point. 3% is nothing over 5 years for a man with a $15 billion empire. It isn't.
Bingo.
It just or isn't. An $8.5 billion empire.
Okay, tomato. Call it.
Listen, how I think this is going to play out, because I got cut off because Eric wanted to do math and flex.
You asked me a question, but go on.
When did I ask you a question?
I don't know. Run the tape.
Okay, there's no tape. I think sooner rather than later, you're going to see him get moved away from the team. I don't know if it's going to be in the coming weeks with more information coming out as they move forward with this Jane Doe lawsuit. I think there's a chance that it happens this season. I hope it does. If he plays
is she unnamed?
Yeah, she's a Jane Doe right now.
Gotcha.
Personally, I wish we would just cut ties with this whole thing and let it go. I'm over it, like I said, with the Black Cloud. But I think it's going to be much of a wait and see thing with the due process of the NFL's conduct policy and all of that. But you never know. Maybe they could come out tomorrow and say he violated it because Browns. He came out with another case that wasn't noted to the Browns, and then the Browns cut him, and that's that, and we're done, and we're moving on with famous Jameis and some crab legs on Sunday. And it's going to be such a waiting game. I could sit here and try to predict it like I was going to go down that rabbit hole before Eric started going with the money again. It's so tough because we don't know what's going to happen, really. The NFL is so unprecedented in everything that they do when it comes to punishments and players and fines and, commissioners exempt versus being actually like barred from the league or suspended. I just hope we don't have to wait too long and we get a definitive answer of where we're going. That isn't just Kevin Stefanski saying, we're going to do our due process, and they're doing their due process, and he's playing on Sunday. And the league saying, we're doing our due process, and Andrew Berry saying, we're doing our due process, and the Haslams are saying, we're doing our due process. And you get my gist.
There's two things that we didn't.
Go ahead, E.
I was just going to say there's two things we didn't bring up. I'm ready to enter tinfoil hat time. The first thing that we didn't bring up
let me do this before tinfoil hat, because that sounds like this can be a parting shot. The only thing we didn't hit on with the QB conversation is what we need. We talked about who's available. We waxed nostalgic about some people in the past and talked crazy about, like, what if we get Patrick Mahomes? To win a Super Bowl or to compete for a Super Bowl, I don't think we need Patrick Mahomes. And the question is, Jameis Winston could be like a half a step better than PJ.
We need a game manager. That's all we need. We need a guy that won't turn the ball over, that can score some points, because I do think we have a defense that can compete. We need a game manager that's going to protect the football and put some points on the board. That's not.
Why couldn't we have drafted Brock Purdy?
Why didn't we get Justin Fields?
Yeah, or Russ Wilson, for that matter.
Well,
I don't want Russ. I'm good. Russ can stay in Pittsburgh.
I'm good on Russ too, but
round two, would we be better off with Russ Wilson than Deshaun Watson right now?
Hey, we're coming up on an hour, man. We don't got time for all that now. I don't know about all that.
All right, let's go into conspiracy theory time.
Let's rip it off. Why not?
The first that I'm just going to bring up because it's way out there, but I brought this up to Noah and I just said, how crazy would it be if it came out that the Haslams were paying Jane Doe to get out from Watson's contract? So that's just crazy. Let's set that one aside.
No, I called my dad yesterday and I was like, what would be wild if Jimmy.
Oh, you said the same thing?
I was like, hey, Dad, I think Jimmy.
My mom is
5 years ago, and they kept her on ice. They were like,
remember the first time around with the person the attorneys right down the road from the owner of the
same attorney for this case too, by the way.
Is it?
They were like,
Tony Busby.
They're like, as soon as Deshaun's QBR drops below 10, we need you to drop this bombshell.
Listen, I know you guys were joking, but when we're talking about the world of billionaires, shady shit gets done. There's fixers. I recommend looking into Roy Cohn as we're in this political season to just understand this world of how things work. You never know. But my more favorite conspiracy is the supposed Deshaun Watson burner account. Now, I want to go on record. As saying that I don't think this is Deshaun Watson. I think this is somebody purposefully trying to seem like Deshaun Watson.
I'm of the same belief, but yes,
you're doing a good job. Larry Bickerstaff is funny.
Do you have any of the tweets, Noah?
No, but I can pull them while you talk.
So essentially, what was the guy's name?
Larry Bickerstaff.
There it is.
Leroy Bickerstaff.
Leroy Bickerstaff, which is funny using the ex-Cavs last name as well, Cavs coach. Leroy Bickerstaff has all these tweets that are like, you don't understand the work number 4 is put in. If the coach would call good plays, number 4 is doing his part out there. It's so funny and so bizarre. It was kind of the highlight of the loss. And I saw something that I sent to these guys that was the starting lineup for next week. And you had Leroy Bickerstaff as the starting QB. And that's what we've devolved into. That's what our season already after one game. I do want to hear one more thing. We'll get into this, but
quotes real quick. Here's some quotes real quick.
Yeah.
If 4 had a tackle like Trent Williams, he'd be able to show his greatness. 4 can't succeed when he's got no chance back there. Someone gets it. One game ain't nothing. Just wait till the O-line and play calling stop holding Ford back from his greatness. Yep, but we gon' come on here and blame Ford when it's the offense as a whole. Give Foe no chance at success when he's backed up like this every time.
Best part of this show is Noah struggling with the black scent on a couple of those.
Listen, I was not.
We gon' tell folks we can't do no more.
It's spelled like that, dude.
I
It is
really
literally
expected
spelled
him to do better. But...
I'm totally messing with you, dude. It was great.
Oh, that's funny. Damn, I lost my train of thought after that one. I do want to know something from you guys that I'm gonna think of in a second. The Leroy Noah reading the
Leroy Bickerstaff
threw me off.
It's great. It was good. Thank you for pulling it, Noah. You take so much shit, but sometimes I feel bad. It's still funny, but I'm sorry.
No, you're good, man. You're good. I can take it on the chin. I'm allowed.
Yeah, I got nothing. I don't remember where I was going with it.
Gentlemen, we're over an hour. Let's go to final thoughts and takes. We don't have to harp on the Browns if you guys don't want to. My take is not Browns related. John, go ahead, man.
Yeah, my hot take is a quick one. I think the Buckeyes got a Heisman Trophy candidate brewing at wide receiver. You want to talk about a football team you can't put your faith into and watch week to week. Buckeye, I know we're not playing great competition right now, but if he keeps up at this pace, might earn a ticket to New York as a freshman. So shout out to the Buckeyes. Keep rolling, and we'll see what we get against Oregon in a few weeks. I think they're off this week. So
no, Marshall noon. Big Ten kickoff game.
Okay, nice.
Eric,
It's weird having a bye week so soon. This week,
it is this.
They
week.
play.
They play Marshall the following week, the 26th.
Yeah, I think they play Marshall.
Because I just got invited to that game, so I know for sure that the bye is this Saturday.
I didn't put that together. I thought they played this week.
Right,
no, it is the bye.
They are off this week. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Fact check myself, I guess. Go ahead, Eric.
Mine's a little more sobering. Today is 9/11, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. Noah was born in 2000, so he doesn't really remember anything regarding that. But 2,997 people or 977 people lost their lives exactly 23 years ago today. And what happened after and going to war for 20 years, there was a very good reason for that. John and I were talking about this. If you live through it and you live through those images, it's like nothing ever seen before. Most lives lost on American soil since Pearl Harbor in 41. What I want to shout out is that men and women every day go to work and put their lives on the line and know that they could be put in the thick of shit to allow us to do things like this. We have a lot of fun arguing with each other and arguing sports, but we're only able to do that because people sacrifice themselves for our freedoms. And we talk about how we can do things that maybe make our country better. And I think we've touched on even in this show before how, I hate when setting politics aside, anybody says, if you don't like it, leave kind of thing. The beauty of America is that what people try to do is to make it better and enhance America. That's why we have constitutional amendments. It's amending things. But my point is that we still live in the greatest country on earth. And so I just want to take a moment to shout out our service people and those lost 23 years ago today.
Well
I couldn't agree or state that any better than you have, Eric. And I'm going to let us wrap this a little lighthearted now, comparatively speaking, at least. But, we're coming to the tail end of the MLB season. You guys talked a little bit how we wish we could talk a little bit more guards or something like that. So I wanted to mention the guards before we got off of here. But I think there is a clear choice for the AL Cy Young winner, and it isn't the Detroit pitcher in first place. It is the best closer in Guardians history, Emmanuel Clase, and that's how it should fall, and that's how I hope it falls. And I'm going to leave it at that. Gentlemen, you got any other final thoughts you want to put out there before we take this thing home?
I just want to say that, we get into it week to week, but you guys are my brothers and I love you, and it's always fun.
Yeah, it's a blast, and I'm happy to talk and bully and harass in a brotherly way, the both of you. And I'm happy that we get to do this weekly for fun with some viewers watching at home. That being said, thank you for tuning in to yet another edition here at The Office. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Follow us on our socials. We've got the @ names on the screen if you're watching the video. Make sure you hit that download button if you are listening. Post this wherever you listen to your podcast. Helps us grow a ton. And until next time, Cleveland, USA, wherever you're watching, have a great rest of your week.